I had a really awesome opportunity coming up where I got my blue belt in about 6 or 7 months, and I joined the MMA team. And this was at a time when I had first experienced watching the UFC, and I was like, that's what I want to do. That's a challenge worth pursuing. And I did it. And I joined the MMA team about 6 months in, and then it was probably 6 months or a year later, I fought MMA. And I only had 3 fights. They were all in the same year, but they were the 3 best nights of my life. I was fortunate enough to win all 3. I came up in a team where my teammates were Frankie Edgar, Ricardo Almeida, Renzo Gracie would stop by, Edson Barboza, Marlon Moraes, like all these amazing guys who were way better than anyone I was going to fight against in amateur MMA in Atlantic City. So we always had this built-in confidence, and we would usually have a team where there would be 5, 6, 7 of us who would all go fight on the same card. And I remember one night we went, I think it was like 7-0, and we usually did. And that was always special. And I think one of the biggest driving forces was you didn't want to be the dude who lost when everyone else is celebrating, and you miss out on having that amazing night together. And it was special for me because we would sell tickets, and I would probably sell anywhere from 50 to 100 tickets, and all of my high school buddies would come. And we'd all get a hotel room, we'd all go out and party afterwards. And I'm not a big drinker, I'm not a big partier, but celebrating something that's worth celebrating, surrounded by the people you love, was incredible. So I fought MMA for that year, and I probably trained MMA for, call it, 2 to 3 years, which isn't a lot, but it was very purposeful studying. I made a lot of progress in that time, and I enjoyed it. But then kind of fortune helped me out, because I remember I was getting ready for my 4th fight, and it was with New Breed Fighters in Atlantic City, and about a week or 2 before my fight, the promotion went under. And I was in a position where it was, had I won that fight, I would have been given the chance to fight for the title. And that sounded really good to my ego at the time. I wanted that. And realistically, I think I would have won that fight, and I would have won the title. And then I would have been laureled in, with, hey, I'm a champion. And if I can do it in amateur, I could probably do it in pro. And it probably would have set me down a road that was not my path. And when the promotion went under and I had a chance to kind of take a step back, I realized that when I did boxing to learn how to hit people. And when I did Muay Thai, I learned how to strike because I needed to learn how to strike. And in wrestling, I learned how to take people down. But I did jiu-jitsu because I loved jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu was never work for me, but everything else was. Wrestling wasn't. I loved wrestling. But all the striking, that wasn't for me. It didn't click with my personality. I didn't find it stimulating enough. And I realized that I was spending a good chunk of my time in things that weren't meaningful to me when I only have so much time. And this was all in my 20s where I didn't have a lot of other commitments and I could just devote myself fully to martial arts. And I did, but I wanted to devote myself fully to jiu-jitsu, not to striking, not to MMA. And I remember I had this cool realization where I was going through this big Buddhism phase, and I probably was too immature to truly understand the teachings. I was in my early 20s. But I became really obsessed with detachment, and maybe I became attached to detachment. But I remember that I wanted to have an MMA experience where I was the best possible version of myself, and I wanted to lose in front of everyone I knew and loved. And I thought that would be the best thing for my development. And I really wanted that. And I took an honest self-assessment. I realized, if you're the best version of yourself at this level, and it's a low-level amateur MMA, you're probably not going to lose for a long time. And if that's the thing I'm seeking, because I thought that would be a good death of the ego to be my best self and lose in front of everyone I know and love, if I'm going to wait 2, 3, 4 years for that to happen, that's not the best use of my time. If that's all I'm seeking, when all I really want to do is just return to jiu-jitsu, it wasn't my path. And I remember I realized that, and I realized it because the promotion went under, and I took a step back, and I just started doing just jiu-jitsu again, and I fell in love with it in a way that I never really did, because now I knew how valuable it was to me and how meaningful it was to me because I tried the other things. And it's funny, watching MMA sparring from the outside now, it's so violent. It's like a car wreck every single time. And when you're in it, you don't realize it. It just seems normal. It's just, that's what you do. But now on the outside, where now I'm about to get married, we're going to start a family soon. I want to spend my life sharing jiu-jitsu with the people around me, and my life goal is to walk through the park when I'm 100 years old pain-free. MMA is completely contradictory to that goal, and it wouldn't serve me. But at that time, 23, 24, 25, it served me a great deal because it was so challenging and it was so novel for me and out of my comfort zone that it really forced me to grow and to dedicate myself to a discipline where I was weak so that I could acquire strength. And that in itself is a great skill. But I stopped doing MMA because I realized that wasn't my path. And I always kind of had an adversarial relationship with competing where I did it because I knew it was going to make me better. And I did it because all my teammates were winning world championships and I kind of felt left out. But it was never really my path because my path has always been using external experience as a way to modulate inner experience. And I was always more concerned with who I was becoming than what I was achieving. My highest achievement was the development of my character and my personality. And I realized that MMA was no longer serving that. I think when you view the aspects of your life and you're wondering, should I go down this path or should I go down this route? You have to think of what is the context of your goal, right? What is that distant mountain you're working toward? And is this going to take me closer to or further away from that mountain? Like that Neil Gaiman commencement address. And you realize that so many things in life take you away from your mountain. It's that idea in the New Testament that, narrow is the gate and few are those who find it. And broad is the way that leads to destruction. There are so many ways not to pursue your path. But if you have a path, you only really have one way. And you have limitless options to choose from, but only one or two that are really fulfilling your highest goal. And I realized that MMA didn't fulfill my highest goal. Now it does for a lot of my friends and the people around me, and that's incredible. But it didn't for me. And that's why I chose to stop fighting. But I'm so grateful I did. I'm so grateful to learn from those experiences and realize I'm not made of glass. And I'm so grateful for the fun times I had with my friends after. I remember some of my most fulfilling times were after my first MMA fight, my friends were all in the hotel room. We did a cheers. And I went to the bathroom and I looked in the mirror. I had one black eye because I hit one time and I had a beer. And I was just emotionally and spiritually exhausted. I'd just gone through a hard training camp. It was my first fight. It was a lot. But I remember how satisfied I was for having achieved that. And I remember waking up the next day before everyone else did and walking out to the beach and just staring at the water and feeling so much lighter because I carried this heavy load. And that was a gift. And that's what MMA was for me. And I remember all the stress in life wasn't stress anymore after sparring with Frankie Edgar or Ricardo Almeida in the morning. I think we need to purposefully seek out difficulty because it makes our lives so much easier. And that's what MMA was for me. Even now, I haven't fought in 8 or 9 years, but I still know that intensity and I know that amount of suffering. And it just makes daily life so much more beautiful and so much easier because I've experienced something harder than what I experience every day. So if someone feels the need to fight, they feel called to it, I would just suggest try to understand that calling, make sure it's for the right reasons, make sure it's not just for external validation where you're looking for an excuse to love yourself because you're not going to find it through that. But if it's an environment that would force the growth you require, go for it. It's an incredible journey. I quit MMA because I didn't even quit, right? I experienced MMA and I realized that my body needed a new experience. And it's what jiu-jitsu had always provided. But it was the MMA that allowed me to truly appreciate the jiu-jitsu that got me started. And I hope to never throw a punch again in my life, but I hope to do jiu-jitsu for the rest of my life because it's been the best thing I've ever engaged in, and it's been the vehicle through which I get to serve an amazing community. So I quit MMA because it wasn't serving me, but it did serve me. And it's important to always recognize, are you pursuing the goals of who you are or the goals of who you once were? And a day came where I realized that I was pursuing a goal that was not mine. It was mine a year ago. When I realized that, and through the serendipity of circumstance, I was able to make that decision and be at peace with it. So that's why I stopped fighting, and I couldn't be happier about it. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe to our page, like or comment, let us know how we're doing. My goal is to share jiu-jitsu with as many people as possible. And the more we articulate how valuable this practice is, the more we're going to get out of it, and the more we're going to be able to serve the people around us through the experiences and the growth we have on the mat. So thanks again for watching. Hope you're well. Keep aiming up.